Rev up your engines!
George Smart, and George says, hey Scotty, what do you think about BlueHDi engines? I have a Peugeot 208 with a BlueHD engine, has 100 horsepower and 250 Newton meters, I guess, of torque, and it's very low emissions. Okay, I'm not a fan of French cars, but I guess they make pretty good diesels. They don't sell them here in the States, but the BlueHDi engines are a design that, as strange as it sounds, they use a type of, like urine. It uses urea, and that mixes every once in a while, shoots through the system, cleans out the catalytic converter, because the problem they had with diesels was they have a lot of particulates, and so they put a filter on a catalytic converter system, but it would clog up all the time. So that cleans them out. Now, if you do have one, you have to go religiously by the servicing of that BlueTech system. You have to keep that fluid topped up. You have to make sure that it's working correctly. If a code comes up, go to a mechanic like me to check it, because I've had people bring them to me that they didn't maintain them, and then it costs thousands of dollars to fix them. So if you keep that system up and keep that blue fluid in there, yeah, they can be great vehicles. Race Place. Hey Scotty, I recently bought a used Infiniti G37 with 113,000 miles for $7,500. Do you think it's a good car for the price? Okay, well, price of brand new one. They cost a heck of a lot more than that. Thing you got to worry about with Infinitis are it's a combination of mileage and age. When they get older, they can be very expensive to repair. They can have electronic problems and automatic transmission problems and catalytic converter problems. But if yours runs good now and it doesn't have any check engine lights and you get no problems getting inspected when it's state inspection, if you live in an area where it's inspected, they can be decent cars. Just my advice is, with that mileage on it, don't use it as a heavy mileage car. I would not put 20, 30,000 miles a year on that car because you're going to wear stuff out. If you're using it as a secondary car, they can be fine for the price you pay. But I would not want to use it as an everyday runner, because you will wear it out if you do that. It's got so many miles on it, eventually something's going to go wrong if you put 20, 30,000 miles a year on it. Milton Carballo says, Scotty, I got a new Camry SE 2018. How good would you say the stock brake pads are? Oh, they're excellent brake pads. I mean, in the previous generations, I've had customers with Camrys, and some of them got 80, 90, 100,000 miles or more out of the original brake pads. They work quite well. Now, when I replace them for people, a lot of guys like the Accabono, and I put Accabono replacement pads. They don't make any noise either, and they can last a really long time. But the stock ones are excellent pads. What I tell people is, see what they cost. If the Accabonos are a lot cheaper, buy the Accabonos. If the stock are the same, you can go with stock. They're good pads. There's nothing wrong with them. Jeffrey Rogers says, my 2014 Escape is telling me it's a required oil change. There's only about 1,000 miles on the oil. I checked the oil pan. Any suggestions? Okay, well, one, I don't really like warning systems and when it's time to change the oil, because they break down a lot. Sometimes they tell you it never needs changing, or sometimes, like in your case, it seems it needs it really soon. But here's the thing. If you don't drive that vehicle much, you went 1,000 miles, but let's say it's been over a year, it's going to tell you it's time to change it, because there's a time frame on there too, and the computer says if you haven't changed it in a year, it's time to change it. If you don't drive much, water and corrosive stuff can build up in the engine oil, and so even if you don't drive your car all that much, you should change it once a year. Change the oil once a year. If you've got 1,000 miles on it and you put it on in 3 months and it says you need to change the oil, then there's something wrong with that warning system. It's not working correctly. Kevin Frink says, Scotty, I have a 1995 Chevy Blazer. I'm not getting any power from the battery to the inside of the car, but it gets power if I connect a jumper cable to the junction box or starter. Okay, well, then between the battery to the ignition switch or the ignition switch up, you have an electrical short. You want to get a meter and you want to test them. You could be losing power somewhere between the battery and the ignition switch. Check that wire first. And if not that, and you have power going to the ignition switch, turn the ignition switch on. And if you got no power going out, that means the ignition switch is bad. Now, if power goes out when you turn the ignition switch on, then there's a short somewhere between there and the fuse box and everything else that it sends power to. You always have to be logical with electricity, because you can't see electricity. So you have to be logical and do really in-depth testing to find out what's wrong with electricity. But with the little meter, you can learn a lot. Watch my videos, watch electronic specialty videos, and they can show you how to use those meters. They come in real handy. And they're not that expensive. For $40, you can get a really good one these days. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos,
Remember to ring that bell.